stop. Before you make another sandwich, you need to hear this. Government testing just revealed that 50% of UK bread now contains dangerous pesticide cocktails, and that number has doubled in just 1 year. I'm about to expose the 6 worst offenders that millions of British families are eating every single day, and some of these names will shock you. Look, I've spent months digging through official government reports, Pesticide Action Network data, and expert health warnings that most people never see. They found 11 different pesticides in bread, including 5 linked to cancer, cypermethrin, deltamethrin, and glyphosate. But here's what really got my attention. The long-term effects of these chemical cocktails are largely unexplored according to leading bread nutrition experts. We're basically running a massive experiment on ourselves. And the worst part? Supermarkets aren't even required to tell you about hidden additives in their so-called fresh bread. As someone who's been eating these brands my whole life, this research genuinely disturbed me. I used to grab whatever was cheapest off the shelf. Warburtons, Hovis, Kingsmill. These are household names we've trusted for decades. But when I saw what's actually inside these loaves, I had to share this with you, because your family deserves to know the truth. So let's dive into the 6 brands you need to avoid, starting with number 6. Brand 6, supermarket own brands. Number 6 might surprise you. It's basically every major supermarket's own brand bread. Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, all of them. Now, here's the thing about supermarket bread that'll blow your mind. Government testing found pesticide traces in all major supermarket-owned brands. Aldi, ASDA, Co-op, Iceland, Lidl, Marks & Spencer, Morrison's, Ocado, Sainsbury's, Tesco, and Waitrose. Every single one. But wait, it gets worse. You know that freshly baked bread they make in store? The stuff that smells amazing when you walk past the bakery section? Only Marks & Spencer could confirm that any of their in-store bakery loaves met basic standards of being made without artificial additives. That means when you're buying that warm loaf from Asda or Tesco's bakery, thinking you're getting something fresh and healthy, you're likely getting the same industrial chemicals as the wrap stuff. I'll never forget the day I called Tesco to ask about their bread ingredients. You know what they told me? We won't be able to disclose that kind of information as it is confidential. Confidential. We're talking about bread here, not nuclear launch codes. But that response told me everything I needed to know. Here's the sneaky part, and this is brand new information from September 2025. Many supermarket brands are now using something called fermented wheat flour on their labels. Sounds healthy, right? Natural fermentation? Wrong. The Federation of Bakers confirmed that fermented wheat flour on a label actually means a preservative, used to inhibit mold and extend shelf life. They're literally hiding preservatives behind fancy names. Asda admitted it straight up. Fermented wheat flour typically refers to flour fermented to generate propionic acid. That's a chemical preservative, not some artisan fermentation process. So next time you see fermented wheat flour on a supermarket loaf, remember, that's code for we added preservatives, but don't want to say it directly. Brand 5, Allinson's. Number 5 is going to hurt. It's Allinson's. I know. They market themselves as the healthy choice. Their packaging screams wholesome. Their classic wholemeal bread costs £1.35 at Ocado, and people pay extra thinking they're getting quality. But here's what Which magazine discovered when they actually tested Allinson's bread. 4 different types of flour were present in an Allinson's classic wholemeal bread loaf. 4. When you buy wholemeal bread, you expect wholemeal flour, right? That's the whole point. But Allinson's is mixing in regular wheat flour, treating flour, and who knows what else. Now, technically this isn't illegal. There's no legal definition for wholemeal in the UK, which is insane when you think about it. But ethically, when you slap classic wholemeal on your packaging and charge premium prices, people expect, actual wholemeal. The really frustrating part is that Allinson's has this reputation. People recommend it in health forums. Parents buy it thinking they're doing right by their kids. But you're paying extra for marketing, not quality. And here's the kicker. The 2025 bread regulations that came into effect, they're so weak that manufacturers can still profit from exploiting the health halo of wholemeal to sell additive-laden products made from up to 99% highly refined flour. That's not a typo. 99%. Your wholemeal bread could be 99% white flour with just 1% wholemeal, and they can still market it as healthy. Allinson's isn't breaking any laws, but they're definitely breaking trust. Brand 4, Mother's Pride. Number 4 takes us back to 1936. Mother's Pride. First sold in 1936, became a national brand in 1956 with iconic TV ads featuring Thora Hird and Dusty Springfield. Your grandparents probably ate this bread, maybe your parents too, but nostalgia doesn't make bread healthy. Here's what Premier Foods, the company that owns Mother's Pride now, doesn't want you to focus on. They source palm oil, but only 36% comes from sustainable sources. The rest? Well, let's just say the environmental impact is questionable, but the palm oil is just the start. Let me paint you a picture of what's really in a typical Mother's Pride loaf. Imagine you're in a factory. Massive machines are mixing dough at high speed. The process is called CBP, Chorley Wood Bread Process, and it replaces dough's natural ripening time with high-speed mixing and a cocktail of oxidizing agents, emulsifiers, and other artificial additives. They pump in extra yeast, way more than traditional baking needs. They add hard fats like that questionable palm oil. And then comes the preservative cocktail to make sure this bread can sit on a shelf for days without growing mold. The process requires extra energy to control the dough temperature, which has been heated by the energy-intensive mixing, and to cool the loaves before wrapping. It's not bread making, it's industrial manufacturing. You know what bothers me most about Mother's Pride? The name, Mother's Pride. It conjures images of home baking, family kitchens, love baked into every loaf. But there's nothing motherly about industrial dough conditioners and palm oil sourcing that destroys rainforests. Nothing prideful about hiding behind nostalgic marketing while pumping out heavily processed products. Your actual mother wouldn't recognize half the ingredients in Mother's Pride bread, and that should tell you something. Brand 3. Number 3 is going to shock people. It's Warburtons, Britain's biggest bread brand. They have 34% of the UK market. Their adverts are everywhere. They sponsor major events. They're the bread of choice for millions. But here's what the testing revealed. Warburtons products were found containing pesticide residues in the latest government analysis. The brand millions trust most is contaminated with the same chemical cocktails as everyone else. Now, Warburtons will tell you their products meet safety standards, and they're right, technically. But here's what they won't tell you about those safe additives. Take calcium propionate, E282. It's in most Warburtons bread. At levels found in 3 slices of bread, calcium propionate can disrupt insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism, leading to impaired glycemic control and weight gain. 3 slices. That's a couple of sandwiches, and you're already hitting levels that mess with your blood sugar. But wait, there's more. The same research found that amounts equivalent to 5 to 10 slices of bread have caused acute toxicity in school children when calcium propionate was combined with other additives. Think about that. 5 to 10 slices. A family of 4 could easily go through that much Warburtons bread in a single day. Breakfast toast, packed lunch, sandwiches, dinner rolls. Here's the thing about Warburtons that really gets me. Industry analysts call them the clear category leader in terms of product quality and production cost efficiencies. But efficient doesn't mean healthy. It means they've perfected the art of mass-producing bread-like products as cheaply as possible while maximizing shelf life and profit margins. And here's some breaking news from 2025. Warburton's sales dropped 12.2% from the previous year. People are waking up. They're reading labels. They're asking questions. The bread industry knows this. They're dealing with volatile wheat prices, rising energy costs, and shifting consumer preferences toward low-carb, gluten-free, and artisan bread alternatives. Translation: people are getting smarter about what they eat. But here's my question for you. If the biggest, most efficient bread company in Britain is seeing sales drop because people want healthier options, why are you still buying their products? Brand 2, Kingsmill. Asterisk, number 2 is Kingsmill. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Industry experts describe Kingsmill and Hovis as being in a slugfest for the #2 position behind Warburtons. But when you're fighting to be second best in a race to the bottom, what does that really mean? Let me tell you about Kingsmill's wholemeal deception. Which magazine found 3 different flour variants in Kingsmill tasty wholemeal bread? Again, we're seeing this pattern. Brands marketing wholesome products while mixing in cheaper, processed alternatives. But Kingsmill takes it further. They were found with pesticide contamination like everyone else, but here's the kicker. Their sales dropped 14.9% in recent testing periods. That's the biggest drop of all the major brands. People are abandoning Kingsmill faster than any other major bread company. Want to know why? Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening behind the scenes. Kingsmill is owned by Allied Bakeries, which is part of Associated British Foods. Allied Bakeries has been bleeding around £30 million annually, £30 million in losses every year. They even lost a major supply contract with Tesco. When one of Britain's biggest supermarkets drops your bread supplier, that should tell you something about quality and value. Here's the really telling part. Associated British Foods is now in talks to merge Allied Bakeries with Hovis. Why? Because neither company can survive on its own anymore. Analysts believe the combined business could shave off £50 million in annual costs through rationalized distribution and logistics networks. Translation, they're not focusing on making better bread. They're focusing on cutting costs to stay profitable while selling the same industrial products. Now, Kingsmill does make one product that health-conscious parents love, their 50 over 50 bread. Kingsmill 50 over 50 bread is marketed as a good choice for kids, as they won't realize that they are eating some very healthy wholemeal. But here's the thing. If you have to trick your kids into eating healthy bread by hiding the fact that it's healthy, maybe the problem isn't your kids. Maybe the problem is that the bread doesn't actually taste good because it's heavily processed. Ask yourself this. Would you rather give your kids bread so processed that they can't tell it's supposed to be healthy, or teach them to enjoy real, simple bread made from actual ingredients they can pronounce? Brand 1, and now number 1, the worst offender of them all, Hovis. Hovis began in 1886 with a name coined from the Latin phrase hominis vis, the strength of man. The irony is almost too much to handle, because what Hovis represents today is the weakness of industrial food production and the lengths companies will go to exploit our trust. Let's start with the basics. Hovis products tested positive for pesticide residues in government analysis, but that's just the beginning. Here's what really gets me about Hovis. They've built their entire brand on tradition, heritage, craftsmanship. When B vitamins in wheat germ were reported in 1924, Hovis increased in popularity because people thought they were getting healthier bread. But fast forward 100 years, and what are you actually getting? Hovis wholemeal bread contains 3 different flour variants, despite marketing itself as a simple, traditional wholemeal loaf. When, which? Magazine questioned them about this. Hovis claimed the wheat flour was being used as a carrier or bulking agent, not as a flour ingredient. A bulking agent, they're literally admitting they're bulking out their wholemeal bread with cheaper flour, but claiming it doesn't count because it's not technically an ingredient. That's not tradition. That's deception with a legal loophole. But here's the real story behind Hovis that shows how far they've fallen. Premier Foods posted a pre-tax loss from continuing businesses of £98 million. That's right, they're losing almost £100 million. Industry experts say it's very hard to see how they can have a profitable future in bread. Even business analysts think Hovis is failing. And now, like Kingsmill, Hovis is in merger talks because they can't survive alone anymore. The 1-3-5-year-old brand is struggling with volatile wheat prices, rising energy costs, and shifting consumer preferences toward low-carb, gluten-free, and artisan bread alternatives. Notice what's missing from that list? Quality, innovation, customer satisfaction. They're not struggling because they can't make good bread. They're struggling because they refuse to. Here's what breaks my heart about Hovis. Analysts describe it as a power brand for Premier because no one else would buy it from them. Think about that. Hovis is so damaged as a brand that even if Premier Foods wanted to sell it, nobody would want to buy it. Your grandparents trusted Hovis. Mine probably did too. They bought it thinking they were getting the strength of man, honest, nutritious bread. Instead, we're getting the weakness of industrial processing, hidden flour bulking agents, pesticide residues, and a company so desperate that even industry experts think it has no profitable future. That's not the heritage bread your family deserves. Now, before you think I'm just here to tear down the British bread industry, let me explain what's really happening here. The problem isn't that these companies are evil. The problem is the system they're operating in. UK law actually enshrines the right of manufacturers to use a whole cocktail of additives in bread. The regulations we have are designed to allow industrial production, not to protect your health. And here's something that should terrify you. History is littered with additives that were once declared safe but later heavily regulated, withdrawn or banned in the UK on health grounds. Chlorine-based bleaching agents were defended by industry but then banned from UK bread flour production in 1999 due to health concerns. Titanium dioxide was banned across the EU, but we in post-Brexit UK are still exposed to the substance. How many of today's safe additives will be tomorrow's banned substances? Supermarkets are not obliged to disclose the presence of additives in bread due to food regulations. Think about that. The very institutions we trust to feed our families aren't required to tell us what's in the food. Between 9 and 12 million wrapped loaves are sold in the UK every day, representing about 75% of the loaves we buy. Most of Britain is eating industrial bread products without even knowing it. The possible effects of these additives on human health, when consumed in combination over time, remain largely unexplored. We're not just talking about one preservative or one pesticide. We're talking about chemical cocktails that have never been tested together, eaten daily by millions of people, with no long-term studies on the combined effects. Ask yourself, when did we become okay with being guinea pigs for the food industry? Okay, so what can you actually do about this? Because I'm not here just to scare you, I'm here to help you make better choices. First, look for real bread certification. Real bread is simply bread made without additives. It can be any kind of bread, but it must not contain artificial preservatives, emulsifiers, or processing aids. The only exceptions are the 4 fortifications added to milled flour by law: calcium carbonate, iron, thiamine, and nicotinic acid. Everything else should be recognizable food. When you're shopping, use the anything your granny wouldn't recognize as food principle as a useful day-to-day rule of thumb. Can your granny pronounce calcium propionate? Probably not. Would she know what fermented wheat flour really means? Definitely not. The good news is that real bread is becoming more available. Brands like Burtonette Bakery now offer sliced sourdough loaves in Waitrose and Ocado, which stay fresher for longer without additives or shelf-life enhancing preservatives. Even some supermarket brands are stepping up. Waitrose's entire No One range of sourdoughs can be classed as real bread, made using just levain, starter, water, salt, and various flours. Bread consumption in the UK has halved over the past 50 years as consumers seek healthier or more artisanal alternatives. You're not alone in wanting better food. The industry knows this. Sales are dropping across all major brands because people are getting smarter about what they eat. Your choices matter. Every time you choose real bread over industrial bread products, you're voting with your wallet for better food standards. Your family deserves better than pesticide cocktails and hidden preservatives. You deserve to know what's in your food. So tonight, when you get home, check your bread, read the ingredients. If you can't pronounce half of them, it's time to make a change. And if this video helped you see bread differently, share it with someone who needs to know. Subscribe for more Food Truth videos, because the more people who understand what's really in our food, the more pressure we put on these companies to do better. What bread are you going to choose tomorrow?